So it's been about a month since F125 has launched, and how am I feeling about the game now at this point after a month of digesting things, playing the game thoroughly? Let's talk about it, because we went into the F125 game cycle, let's be real, very cynical on this channel, very cautious about everything we were hearing going into the game, for good reason, because we got really badly burned with F124 and the way that was. But I think it's only fair now, in the same way where I was coming on here and talking to you guys just to camera and just giving you my raw opinion about things going into the game cycle, I think it's only fair now that after a month of playing the game, let's, talk through what I've digested and give a fair review of where my head's at with F125. And that is, overall, very surprised and happy about where F125 is. It feels like more like a return to form compared to last year's F1 game, for sure, by like a million miles, and then also more so than like F1 23 and 22 did. Don't get me wrong, there is, we still not reached the peak of, what we had for F1 2020 and F1 2021, but for many reasons that we've spoken about at length, it's never going to be the same. We were all inside a lot. Gaming itself was having a massive buzz. IRL F1 was in this weird zone as well because of the altered calendar and everything, and was in this crazy spot. So for many reasons, I don't think, unless, there's some absolute world beater of an F1 game, I don't think we're going to ever really reach the feeling of F1 2020 and 2021. But when you really break it down, F1 25, for those of us, especially if you've been playing F1 games for a while now, you've not just hopped on the trend or anything like that, you've been playing them for a while, like myself, 15 years playing the F1 games. I think F1 25, you've got to be honest, has to sit up there in at least the top 10. For me, it sits in the top 5 all-time official F1 games from Codemasters / EA now. And it really just boils down to the overarching reason I think that is because they've actually listened and they've actually tried to actively fix a lot of things we were having gripes about, Let's talk about AI, because that was a big thing going into this game from last year. The most painful step back that was. We went like 6 years back in terms of how the AI were. Like F1 2018-19 had better AI than F1 24, which is ridiculous to really think about. But now they're in a much better place. I think we're back to, like I said, all I wanted was us to get back to F1 23 minimum, because I think F1 23's AI was the best we had at that point, because there were every year from like F1 2017, 18, 19, 20, there was always little improvements and a step back, let's be real, in F1 22, but then a return to going forwards on F1 23, and I just wanted them to get back to that. I think it's safe to say F1 25 succeeds that in terms of how the AI are. Don't get me wrong, we're not totally 100% there. There's still things to improve, which I'll get to in a moment, but the AI are no longer in 20-car trains the entire race, and if there are some trains, they're broken up for good reasons of like tire wear, and obviously even in real life Formula 1 there are some little tiny ones, and they obviously stated that going into the game. That was actually one of the reason points they said about the AI is we have tried to improve it, but there are trains, and I was skeptical about that. I thought they were just kind of making excuses. But you've got to admit, based off the videos that I've uploaded with my team career mode, it's not really noticeable, actually. There's just a lot of fighting all and up and down the field. They go for moves. There are multiple 3 wides at many tracks. Bahrain was the craziest one in Season 1. There's also so many instances where AI surprisingly stick with you mid-corner, keeping the throttle down and willing to go wheel to wheel with you and each other. Like AI on AI battles are back, and they're better than ever before. And the tire wear this year, I'm really enjoying it. The tire wear being much higher and more pronounced, although maybe some of you will say, oh, it's a bit difficult. Maybe it really is just a skill issue, because it actually really is genuinely making things interesting in terms of a variety and strategies for the AI. At least in Season 1, I feel like there's maybe already an inkling that with the tire wear upgrades, maybe we'll get towards a lot of races being one stops, but it's hard to, tackle that because, in general, you're going to have tire upgrades in the career mode, because teams in real life will try and improve their tire or how the cars perform on the tires. So it's a tough one. Maybe an R&D reset on tire wear specifically could be played in. I'll get into that later on, because that's another different discussion. But there's actual drop off in races with different cars and their tire wear, and so you're seeing the grid spread out. So yeah, overall, really, really happy. It was a sigh of relief, let's say, in the first few episodes of My Team Career Mode to see that. And I think you can see that in my video, and a lot of you guys have been saying that in the video so far, is it's very apparent how much more I'm enjoying it. It's just nice to know I can expect decent reel-to-reel racing myself, but then also when I go to record replay cameras and go to edit the video and show you guys, there's plenty of action going on all around, and it's not just the case of, oh, we've skipped like 25 laps because nothing happened, or we're skipping 6 laps at a go because there's only one mode of action every 6 laps basically. When it comes to still things to be improved on with the AI, let's get into that. So the OP acceleration in speed at some tracks is very, very crazy, or it sometimes also feels like they've just got unlimited ERS, the AI, versus you, the player, rather than just OP acceleration, because if you do deploy battery, you can rectify that. So it's almost like the AI just seemingly have too much battery all of the time, or it looks like they're not simulating ERS correctly in a way. I don't know. We're gonna have to see kind of what the devs can come back with on that, because it has been noted in the forums about improvements to that, and it's been an issue since F1 22 really. I don't know why since that game it's been an issue, and in past games it wasn't, or maybe it was and we're all just forgetting that fact. Maybe it was. F1 2021, I think mid corner the AI were always OP, but it wasn't coming out of the corner, whereas 22 till now, it's been that case. They kind of fixed it in F1 23, but then it returned really badly in F1 24, and obviously was there originally in 22. So we're kind of back with that with some tracks that are really bad for it. Miami, Spa, I think, as well. Silverstone as well. Let me know in the comments below any other ones that you feel are pretty bad for that. There are other tracks where it's not as bad. It's a tricky one to try and fix, because it only really happens past, I would say, 100 AI. And we know that because from 100 to 110 AI, the Codemasters, they've actively said that essentially the only way to make the AI faster, especially at 110, to make them really quick, is to basically make the AI's cars lighter. That's why it feels like the My Team car is like a boat in terms of weight, because genuinely the AI cars are actually lighter to try and make them quicker, to give you that extra challenge. But I just think there needs to be some sort of balance there, or a look at maybe what they could do with the ERS levels or something, because it feels a bit too unrealistic in some cases. Overall, basically. And I know, to be fair, you can rectify that with upgrades and such, but that's definitely probably one of the biggest overarching things with the AI that are still a little bit of a foible. But generally, they're just really, 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 really good. The only kind of other things I can think of are kind of more things to do with genuine, game-changing gameplay, like, your teammate making a pit stop, etc., or maybe mid-race strategies change. It would be nice to see that happening a bit more, or some smarter decisions being made under red flags or safety cars. But at the same time, when they don't make those smart decisions, it can be a very entertaining career race because of that. I think also there needs to be some tweaks just on wheel to wheel, just to improve them even more. They go wheel to wheel, they try and go around the outside, go down the inside sometimes, maybe just not backing out so much in some instances, or slowing down so much when you do dive down the inside. And then I think generally just maybe also in terms of the tire wear, just having that even more pronounced, because sometimes it feels like they're still really good on traction. Obviously, you have those moments where they do make mistakes and there's that snap of oversteer. Just maybe having a little bit more of that, or just having the, again, it kind of ties in with the OP acceleration. Maybe just not having that, oh, they're pulling away, even though they should have the same sort of tire wear as me. But also, it's hard to tell sometimes in My Team, because it could just be car to car. They're better at that. On the topic of transfers, really good. From what I've seen in Season 1 to Season 2, really damn good. I mean, I've seen some of you guys' comments or tweets about the transfers, and you've said, that you've had some crazy ones. So it's safe to say they've listened, they've learned from community feedback. So you got to give them their praise and kudos. I think ideally now, building on this, the next step would be having your own in-game menus to do driver roster changes if you want to do that yourself. So you could create your own story in My Team Career, but at the same time, with the way the transfers are now, it's just great to leave it to the game. And, it's kind of more fun to let the game decide what your story is going to be season to season with the transfers. But that's the kind of only thing I could kind of add on is from here, how do we build on that base and kind of still the golden mantle would be a system like F1 Manager produced at the end of the life cycle of that entire franchise, is giving that driver roster update. But they may not want to do that because of the whole yearly thing. But I still think people would get the next F1 game, even if they could change the driver rosters in game, because you still want the new cars, you still want new features, etc. So I think it's definitely something they should still think about. And then on top of that, I think an improvement I can think of is a tweak of how things work mid-season. I think I want to see more rumors. I want to see more talks, maybe with more drivers, or maybe drivers are more willing to demand more from you or shut you down or mess you around by talking to multiple different teams, basically. I think the mid-season, it was interesting when it first came up in Season 1. I think in future seasons, it's kind of the same now where I know how things are going to work. It could be nice to surprise you a bit more with how that would work, or just trying to, tease you a little bit more with maybe, like, I don't know, news articles or pop-ups about, oh, so-and-so is trying to go for so-and-so. Would you want to react? Would you want to try and go for them or something like that? So just trying to spice it up even more in the mid-season when you're doing the driver talks. Now, talking about My Team in general. So far, the new mode is really, really solid. Lots of management gameplay, which I like. And I know a lot of you have as well. Because actually, to my surprise, of course, I can see all the analytics of the videos and stuff and, like, viewer retention. Surprisingly, there's actually quite a few episodes where I've thought, oh, that's quite a lot of management in the first part of the video. Maybe not a lot of people will watch it. Surprisingly, the retention's actually been higher for those management bits compared to the actual race itself. So there's clearly a lot of you that are tuning in just wanting to maybe more see the management side of My Team, which is really cool because it is a lot. I mean, for someone like me who loved the F1 Manager game, I really love it. Obviously, I know it's not everyone's bread and butter, but for those of us who like to get really nerdy about, managing teams and kind of, doing those improvements and such, it's a really enjoyable part of the game. I think obviously still we'll need to see how the game life is 3-4 seasons down the road. Is there still enough gameplay there with the management, or is it going to be kind of just, okay, we've done everything now in Season 4, now we're just focusing race to race on the race itself? Who knows? That's a thing you can't tell within a month. You kind of have to keep on playing it, basically. Maybe some of you who have sped through careers in My Team, maybe you can shed some light for us in the comments below. The decal editor has surprised me. I really wanted to note that. The decal editor has really surprised me. Like, genuinely, I thought by this point, as usual, Season 2, I would have binned it off. I would have done a fully PC modded livery for my series, but it's so good at making you care about the in-game sponsors, with it being tied to income, the title sponsor actually having a tangible impact on your income and the outlook of the team, and just having that, trying to earn trust with different sponsors. I genuinely want to try and unlock the different variants because I want the cooler looking logo, and it's making me want to, actually do it, basically. So really kudos to that. I was surprised. I really didn't think I was going to care that much about it past Season 1, but I might need to look into how to do a modded livery while still incorporating the in-game sponsors, because they're really fun to use, and I think it's really done well with the way it kind of sets out on the decal editor. There was like a little bit of a visual glitch on launch, but they fixed that now, and the way it kind of, moves about the car so seamlessly is really, really cool. I think the only next step then, logically would be a more complex livery editor where, you don't necessarily get to change the logos and such, because I know for red tape, we'll never get something like Gran Turismo, for example. But having a livery editor where you could edit basic shapes and move them about, maybe on top of baseline liveries. So maybe we have the base liveries, and then within them, you can tweak some shapes or tweak some patterns potentially, and then on top of that you add the decals in. I think that would be the next cool step, and you could then still incorporate that into the podium pass, and it would all still work the same way they want it to be. In terms of improvements, like I said, it's going to be hard to tell big jumping improvements that I need to talk about until I play more of the game, basically. But I've already seen with my maxed out video that maybe phase 4 needs to be looked at. It seems like it's not working as expected. Maybe there's some missing upgrades in phase 4 with the breakthroughs. So I've already seen the forums that's been flagged, so I really hope the devs can look at that to fix that for the end game, you know, for phase 4, right at the end of your, you know, upgrading the HQ facilities. I also got this sense in my maxing out video that once you get towards maxed out HQ and car, it's going to be tough to maybe find the challenge in it, or it will be too much of a challenge and annoying if the My Team car maxes out lower than AI cars. I think the new R&D reset system could help. I think the R&D reset system could help that, but with the way the new system works, where you're paying money to reset, it doesn't really reset R&D in the same way it used to, in like a good way. So I think they need to bring back you paying R&D points to offset the R&D regulation change, basically, because I think all the AI right now and you will mostly adapt most of the parts, and the worry is there's no real reset happening. Like, I want to be able to see like a whole grid just nosediving potentially back down to, like, you know, mid-season 1 levels of performance. Like, that's what you need, especially in later seasons of the game, to keep on playing it. At the same time as well, away from R&D, I think now that we've got 2 drivers, I want to see a lot more, you know, now you've got 2 fictional drivers, you've got 2 real drivers that you're managing now. Let's play on that, and let's give more gameplay with that. I'm talking about before the start of the race, managing and setting both drivers' strategies so you can accordingly plan it. Mid-race now, because you're the owner, even though you're driving as a driver, because you're the owner overall, I think now is the time. Now is the time in the middle of the race to be able to tell your other driver, don't pit this lap, pit the next lap, and you're speaking to the engineer as the owner, not the driver you're driving as. And I think just having that fluidity of actually being able to affect both drivers in the race, basically. And I thought maybe this was quite a cool idea from one of you guys in the comments, and I was thinking this after I had a DNF early on in the first race of Season 2. If you have a DNF, maybe taking over the other driver's car. I mean, you're the owner. You're just driving as one of the drivers, so why not take over the other driver? You know, or have the choice. Do you want to just simulate or choose the other driver? Because why not? I think it seems kind of like a no-brainer in a way, because both of the drivers are yours. So that's where my head's at right now. I won't go into kind of any further details right now of improvements, because honestly, right now, I'm more focused on just enjoying the game. I'm not really thinking about, oh, what can we do next? Because I'm still thoroughly enjoying F1 25, and right now is maybe not the time to talk about improvements. I think, you know, later on at the end of the year, that's when it's best to talk about ideas now, building on F1 25. But right now, yeah, overall, really enjoying it. You can tell in the videos, basically, you know, handling for me is good. I've said that from launch. It's a non-issue. Graphically, I've said it many times now, it's actually gorgeous. You can't deny F1 25 is one of the best looking F1 games now we've had. Taking it off old gen, finally, did surprisingly improve it a lot, especially on PC now with path tracing. PC path tracing is a game changer, as well as turning the gamma down, by the way. I'm still seeing so many videos of people where the game looks so washed out. Please, for goodness sake, turn down the gamma to at least 90, but 85, honestly, is the sweet spot, in my opinion. And it honestly makes the game look 10 times better and not so bright and washed out. On top of then, if you do have a PC and graphics card capable of doing path tracing, it is, you know, really awesome. Something special. Now, obviously, there are issues elsewhere as well that I've seen. Driver career mode. I need to say that it seems basically unchanged. Someone might need to confirm that, because I've not tried it, because obviously I've just been doing my team. But it seems like they maybe still not fixed the contract system, the reputation system tied to R&D, maybe it's there still, so I want to flag that. That definitely needs to change going forwards. I know my team was a big thing, but there are still some people that might want to play driver career mode. I'm not going to be one of them, because now that my team's back as the main new refresh series, I'll just want to play my team, basically. There's a lot more, story to be done within my team, basically. But for those of you who do play driver career mode, I think they do need to fix those things going forward, so you can't just ignore them. And then in terms of the story mode, let's quickly mention that. As much as I did enjoy story mode again, I'll always champion story mode as someone who loves a single-player experience. It was certainly the weakest story out of the three. I think I rank it as Breaking Point 2. Breaking Point 1 is just underneath, and then Breaking Point 3 was significantly just not as strong as the first two stories. It was kind of clear that they maybe ran out of things they could do in this story. I'm not complaining, there was a lot of cutscenes, but there wasn't actually a lot of racing, because they've kind of done everything, in a way, which is kind of to be expected. And I think now is a nice way to bookend it and just go, cool, we did a trilogy, let's leave it at that, basically, because clearly they kind of ran out of mechanisms and things you could do. But I did like the big cutscenes. I actually enjoyed there was a lot of fleshed out story. It almost would have been cool if we got that level of cutscene, like length, in Breaking Point 1, in Breaking Point 2, because that would have really fleshed out those stronger stories. But obviously, in hindsight, it's hard to do that now, looking back on that, basically. But yeah, that's where I'm at. 1 month on, in a really good spot, really happy where the game is at. I think the player numbers are as high as they've been since, like F1 22 initially, but then obviously it dropped off quite massively. So I think F1 25 is sitting pretty high, higher than F1 24, 23 even, which was an underrated game in my opinion. So at least on Steam, obviously, by the way, because there's no way to access the numbers for PlayStation and Xbox. But on PC, which is, I think, now the majority of the player base, actually, I think a lot of the things that we were shouting about got listened to, got fixed. There's still improvements to make, and as ever, I want the F1 games to be as good as they ever can be. So I'll still be bringing those points up, and if I find more points whilst playing more my team in Season 3 and 4, where there are things that clearly they maybe haven't tested well enough going into those later seasons, I'll obviously shout them out in those, episodes, and then we'll eventually sit down and start making videos about, improvements going on to next year's game. But right now, that's not the time. Right now, compared to this time last year, let's all just revel and enjoy the game for what it is right now. And we can talk about, more critiques and improvements down the line, because there's just so much that they have improved, and there's so much more enjoyment still to be had. I'm still looking forward to, the next set of driver transfers, the next bonkers race that I have. And that's the thing, it's going to happen, because, there's been multiple episodes now where you can see that that is just how the game is now, which is fantastic, which is brilliant. So yeah, those are my thoughts 1 month on. Let me know your guys' overall digested thoughts about your own experiences on the game, and like I said, any of those points I touched upon specifically, let me know in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and I'll catch you guys around. Goodbye.